Morning, I'm Mildred Koskei, working with Kenya Dairy Board.
Good morning, I'm Philip Kirono, Kenya Dairy Board.
Good morning, my name is Erastus Mutiso, Kenya Dairy Board.
Good morning, I'm Rachel Gatei from Kenya Dairy Board.
Good morning, my name is Monica Dungo from Kenya Dairy Board.
Good morning, it's a pleasure to be here. My name is Sami Chepkwon from Tetra Pak.
Good morning, my name is Jacqueline Kitoni and I am also from Tetra Pak. Happy to be here.
Good morning, my name is Stella Odimu, Tetra Pak.
Moses Nyapila, Endless Africa.
So thank you so much. We are all glad to have you here this morning. And my name is Stephen Moremi from Kenya Dairy Board. Bwana Waziri, this event really is your event today. And the peak of the event is actually your speech and a brief to the media. But before you do so, we have a number of presenters who are going to discuss several topical issues in the sector. And with your permission, kindly allow me to call upon my managing director to officially welcome to this forum and as well as give a presentation on the status of the dairy sector, Madam MD. Excuse me.
Our chief guest this morning, the Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperatives, Honorable Peter Munya, Chief Administrative Secretary, Honorable Lina Chebi Kilimo, Chairman, Kenya Dairy Board, Mr. Anthony Mutugi, Chairman, New KCC, Dr. Ignatius Kayu, MD, New KCC, all the other CEOs present this morning, our stakeholders, the dairy farmers, my colleagues, members of the Fourth Estate, good morning. My name is Margaret Kibogi, the Managing Director, Kenya Dairy Board. It's really my pleasure to welcome you to this media briefing on the status of the dairy sector. As you have been told, it was not possible to invite all the stakeholders because of the situation, the new normal, and we just invited a representation so that we can be able to give the status of the dairy industry. We are also live on our YouTube page and Facebook page, and we encourage all the stakeholders to follow us, and we'll be posting the live link so that we can be followed by the many stakeholders who want to hear about the status of the dairy sector. The dairy sector is key in the country, contributing 4% of the GDP. So this is a sector that we must give attention, and we appreciate all the stakeholders along the dairy value chain for their contribution, the success of this industry. Waziri, we appreciate the support that you have given and the attention you have given to this sector, and the farmers appreciate the processors, and everybody along the dairy value chain appreciate the work that you do for the sector, and we don't take it for granted. I have a brief presentation that I'm going to make, followed by other presenters. We have other presenters who will be presenting also, just to update us on the current status of the industry. We appreciate that they've been able to join us this morning. So I'll proceed with my presentation. All right. Just about Kenya Dairy Board, we are the regulator, and we've been around since 1958. We're over 60 years, and our mandate is to regulate, develop, and promote the dairy industry in Kenya. In issues of regulating, we look at licensing, we look at inspection, we look at the quality. In issues of development, we look at the research aspect, and issues of promotion is to promote the dairy sector. And you can see us promoting the school milk program together with the county government. Looking at the dairy production systems in Kenya, we have 3 major, and this could change as we continue carrying out surveys, studies in the dairy sector, and of course the changes that are happening in the country. In terms of extensive, that is the large scale, we have 15%. This number is likely to change because of increased population and the reduced land that we have that is available for use in terms of dairy farming. This is generally farmers keeping up to 300 dairy cattle in paddock and open grazing. And then we have the intensive segment, which is 60% in the country. This is mostly medium and small scale farmers keeping between 3 to 5 animals. Then we have the semi-intensive, which is 25%, which is partly confined and sometimes they graze in the fields. This is basically how the production system is at the moment in the country. But these figures are likely to change, as I said, because of increase and the way we demarcate the land. And of course, you can see the expansion even in terms of the real estate expanding into the farm, of course, eating up, of course, in this sector also. So we will see changes in terms of especially the extensive and people moving into more intensive. And that's where we talk about the farming kwa ghorofa will be taking into effect, especially in urban and semi-urban areas. When it comes to farm level milk production, this country produces about 5.2 billion liters. This comes from 4.2 million dairy cattle, which is generally exotic and crosses. We have other 14 million zebus and other breeds, and we have 2.9 camels and about 400,000 dairy goods and a few sheep that we're able to have milk from them. 80% of the milk produced in the country is by small-scale farmers. So it is very important for us to give attention to the small-scale holders because they are the ones who contribute majorly to the production of the 5.2 billion liters of milk. When you look at the cow milk, we have 3.9 billion coming from the cow, 1.2 from the camel, and the balance from the sheep and the goat. So when it comes to the distribution of consumption, household consumes about 1.8 billion liters. This could have increased because of what has happened in the country because of COVID. We have seen an increased consumption at household. We also have informally marketed milk. This is the one that is traded informally, about 1.5 billion liters, which is about 70% of what we produce going into the informal market. And what is marketed is 2.1 billion liters. This is what we have done. The figures for 2019, we did 678 million liters going through the formal segment. When you look at the sources, in terms of percentage, 76% of milk produced in the country is through cattle. Then we have 17 coming from the camel, 2% sheep, and 5% goat. There's been a lot of initiative towards increasing the goat milk and of course the camel milk. What we have done as a regulator is of course develop standards for camel milk and of course include camel and goat milk and other species in our in our regulations and of course our act, so that we're able to regulate milk from the different species. We are now processing both goat and camel milk, and it is available in our retail outlets, and we are promoting and even building capacity in those areas, not only focusing on the cow milk, so that we're able to expand in terms of the production. When you look at EAC, we are still the highest as a country, producing 41.3% of the total milk within the EAC, followed by the Southern Sudan at 27, Tanzania at 18, Uganda coming very fast, growing very fast at 14.5%, followed by Rwanda, and then Burundi, of course, at 0.9%. So we need to maintain our lead, and the only way for us to maintain this lead is working together with the stakeholders, and we appreciate the support coming from our Cabinet Secretary and the Ministry and all of us to ensure that we continue expanding our share in EAC and of course growing as a country. In terms of the intakes for the last 10 years, it has been very erratic in terms of growth. Some of the years the growth is a bit consistent. Some years we have drops. Like in 2017, we experienced a very drastic drop because of the drought. And last year, there was a really good, because of favorable weather, the production was very high. However, this year, the production has been unique and different, and we need to carry out studies to establish why the production has dropped, yet the weather has been very favorable. Our sector is rain-fed, and the weather, we've received fairly good rain, and we expected that this year we'll also have good production, just like last year. But this is what we can see. In 2019, which is the blue, and the red is 2020. In the month of May, ordinarily, we expect production to go up, just like in 2019. But in 2020, we have seen a dip of milk. Yeah, this could be because of the pandemic and many other reasons that we will be looking at. We will carry out different studies and surveys to establish what could have caused this drop of milk, especially between the month of May to now. We have seen there's been a decline. We saw even deliveries of milk for the last 6 months dropped by 3% compared to the previous year of 2019. Between January and July, we've seen a drop of over 35 to 36%. So this is an area that we are going to concentrate, because we want to become competitive as a sector. We want to be able to meet our demand as a sector and even exceed, because we have opportunities as a sector. In terms of the marketing structures, when you look at the marketing structures that we have in place, there's been growth. In 2020, this year, the number of processors have increased to 47, meaning there is an opportunity for us, and that is why we are attracting investors, and we appreciate them. We have 107 mini dairies, cottage industries, 43, cooling plants, not exceeding 549, 41 cooling plants, those not exceeding 5,000 liters. We have milk dispensers. This is a new entrant that we do not have. We do not have regulations, and we have done a survey, actually a study, and I will be presenting about that study on milk dispenser, because in this marketing structure we have seen a growth, and as a regulator we must also look at how we can support that new segment with, of course, policies and regulations to ensure the milk that is sold through the ATMs is of good quality and is safe for consumption, because it is also creating employment. In terms of milk bars, the numbers are growing. So the structures, the marketing structures are in place and they're expanding, which is good for our farmers, that when they produce milk, there is market for them. Because we have processors, we have milk bars, and we have the new segment growing up. So the market is there for our farmers to be able to sell their milk through this, the marketing structures put in place. However, with those numbers, the utilization of the capacity of these structures is still very low. In processing, the capacity installed as a country is 4.2 million liters per day. However, we are only doing 1.3 million liters. That is only 31% of processing capacity. There is space for us to ensure that when we move and utilize the 4.2 million liters per day, we'll create employment, we'll be able to expand, we'll be able to even reduce the cost of processing instead of leaving our assets idle. During the peak season, when the production is high, this of course moves from the current 31 to between 40 to 48%. But our desire is to move this to higher figures, like even 60%, which will be positive for our industry. In terms of installed coolers, the facilities we have across the country, and we are all aware that government has been supporting through distribution of coolers to ensure that our milk is of good quality and safe for consumption. The installed capacity is 3.4 million liters per day for the coolers, while the utilization is only 1.6 million liters. That is about 37% utilization capacity. So we have the marketing structures. However, in terms of utilization of those structures, is still very low. This is attributed, of course, to the production, the way it is very erratic, and how we channel our milk deliveries from the farm, of course, to the consumer. In terms of trade, milk exports, because this is an area we need to grow. We just don't look internally. In January, we were able to do 46.7 kgs, and the highest being in February, because our production was very good in January and March. Look at what happened April, May, June. If you have customers you're exporting to, they are likely to lose hope and look for other markets. And this has the direct relationship with the production of the country. When we look at trade in terms of imports and exports, from the year 2016 to date, that is 2020, can see the growth of export is high, of imports is higher than the export. The export is the drop in red, and the import is the one in green. If this trend continues, you can become a net importer, and that is not our desire. Yeah? This is not what we want to look at. We want to see a figure where our exports are higher than the imports. Basically, imports are fully regulated, and this is generally from the EAC partner states. So our desire is to ensure that we also push our trade, which is also good for our investors, it is good for our farmers, and all the players within the dairy value chain. So what is the future of trade? What is the outlook that we need to focus as we also address the challenges of production and other challenges that is affecting productivity and production in the sector? Remember, we have the African Continental Free Trade Area. Within Africa, remember, we are the highest consumers of milk as a country. So, in this African Continental Trade Area, we shouldn't be a target for market, for people to sell milk to us. We should be able to exploit, because we know the western part of Africa, they are net importers of milk. We are high consumers. We are also high in terms of production. And we have the infrastructure that is already installed, which I have already given you the figures, and it is growing and expanding. This is an opportunity for us, and it's coming into effect. We also have the Kenya-UK Strategic Partnership Framework. We need to just learn what are the success stories in those areas that we can be able to grow. And of course, we have the Kenya-US Free Trade. We need to learn how to grow. We know we are protectionists, but that must be done. But at the same time, we explore those opportunities because they're available for us. So what do we need to do? What needs to be done so that we change the outlook? We need to reduce inefficiencies along the dairy value chain. We know that is driving our costs. We need to enhance our competitiveness, diversification in even the products. And this is a challenge to our processors. I know we do a lot of liquid in terms of UHT, fresh milk, yogurts. We need to expand our portfolio, especially the markets that are coming in place. And see, for example, casein. We don't have here. And the demand for casein products is very high. So we need to be looking at those areas as opportunities for us. We also need to have accessibility to affordable credit for farm operations, for equipment, because we need to mechanize our sector, become more efficient, and probably we'll be looking at, Waziri, issues of dairy fund, so that our farmers can be able to access and be able to expand through affordable credit in a very structured way. One of the things that we have proposed, because 80% of our farmers are small-scale holders, and there are so many changes that have happened over time. However, we have not changed the way we do things. We have not changed the way we practice our dairy farming. And that's the reason, probably, the age of a farmer, an average age of a farmer, is 60 years, because we have not been able to attract the youth. What we have done in order to improve this productivity and efficiency along the dairy chain, value chain is we have proposed the adoption of cooperative dairy farm model. The cooperatives in the country are supporting us as a sector. They are doing very well, and we want to appreciate Waziri for the circulars that we keep issuing in terms of the pricing structures and all the others. But we are proposing this kind of model in the country to be able to address issues of inefficiencies and enhance productivity. We know production per cow, the country, is 7 liters, between 7 to 8 liters. That is still very low. It becomes very costly for the farmer, and they are likely to get fatigued and give up because the cost drivers will become high in terms of feeding and even managing that cow. This concept that we want to promote, we look at opportunity of pulling farmers, the cattle together, the small holders, and putting them in the common land and professionally managed, because we know the key pillars is on management, the feeding, and our genetics. So if they're able to pull together, they'll be able to reduce that. What will be the benefits of this? This, of course, will increase efficiency, it will increase production, and we are likely not to see the dip that we usually see in terms of seasonality in the country. We can be able to project as a country that at the end of the year, within the 12 months, we'll have this kind of volumes. And even it will be good for our investors because they will know, and it's good for planning. So we call upon the stakeholders in the dairy value chain. We can all start this discussion. It has been adopted in other countries. The successful dairy sectors in other countries, for example, Israel, have this concept and they call it kibbutz. In fact, in areas where we have challenges of cattle rustling, this can be eliminated through this model. And this is a discussion that we need to engage ourselves, that this is an enterprise that is profitable. And if it is going to be sustainable and competitive, must change. And this is one of the models that we are proposing. Be able to see if we can address, because we will continue subdividing land because we have children. That is the model of inheritance of land. And those are the challenges. And when we pull together, we'll enjoy the economies of scale. We'll be able to have only one manager. We'll be able to have only one vet looking at that area. And we can be able to plan appropriately, be able to enhance. So we will be promoting and discussing both at national and the county government. We have already started this initiative, discussing with the milk producing counties and other areas. This, of course, even, you know that as a country, there are only about 26 milk producing countries. However, with this model, even the ASAL areas can be able to adapt to this, because it will be very possible. So, the other area that in the structure is on the milk dispensing machines in Kenya. The first milk dispensing machine in this country was in the year 2005. And as I mentioned, this was a segment that was not regulated, with no regulations. And as a regulator, there was need for us to look at it. What we did was to undertake a study through a project called 3R that was supported by the Kingdom of Netherlands, to look at the trends, to look at the scenarios of these milking machines, the ATMs. And I can tell you that it is growing. The percentages is good, and it's creating employment. It's a sector that cannot, segment that needs to be given attention. So we commissioned the study through the 3R project and funded by the Embassy of Netherlands. And some of the findings that I just need to share so that we can all be able to see some of the trends as a sector is 74% of these ATMs are in Nairobi and its environment. Reason being, the ATM, you're able to buy any volume of milk that is within your budget. It is expanding, and now it is accounting to about 8% of the formal market. The good thing is that 99% of these ATMs sell pasteurized milk. So the safety of that milk is good. And the 67% have contractual arrangement with the processors. They have with the processors, they have with mini processors, and of course the farmers' cooperatives. It creates employment because each ATM employs 2 operators on average. And this is a segment that it has attracted the youth. The average age of the operators is about 28 years old. So the youth has actually embraced, and 97% of female are the decision makers in buying this milk. So if you have any promotion, you target the ladies. Of course, 84% is sold to individuals, and the 13% is sold to institutions. So that is where the competition is. This is where we have come as Kenya Dairy Board to develop regulations. Once passed, hopefully by the end of the year, we'll be able to govern the ATMs in this segment. We've had various trainings because it's a segment that we need to give attention. It's a segment that we have to protect our consumers at the same time. So the regulations are in place. We've carried out trainings in terms of the equipment because we realize that some of them were not using food grade containers and all those challenges. Most of the ATMs were imported, but now they are locally available, but we still need to expand that capacity. Just to give you an update of the ongoing activities within the board to support the sector is we have not been having a lab, so it is in place and very soon it will be operational in the next few weeks. The regulations will be coming also. We have gone through this cycle, and I know we have talked about it many times in many forums, and it's because of the feedback from our stakeholders that we had to go back and to redraft these regulations. We are also carrying out studies. Part of our mandate, that's of development, is research, studies, and carrying out surveys. We are doing one on cost of production. We last did in 2015. And you know, 60% of the cost drivers then was on feed. Probably it has gone up, and I'm happy Tegemeo is represented here. They're actually carrying out this study. Tegemeo is a part of the University of Egerton. They are also carrying out the studies on assessment of feed, that is the status, the challenges, opportunities on fodder and feed production. We have Kipra doing assessment of structures, profitability of milk distribution and retailing. Waziri, we've had issues in terms of retail markets where they are unable to pay our processors, and I'm sure the chairman of the processors, representing the processors, will be able to mention some of those challenges in this retailing, and want to understand how is this profitability in terms of distribution, so that we are able to also manage. It does not affect the pricing in terms of the consumer and, of course, the processing part of it. We are also going to carry out the study and want to assess the size of informal milk marketing in Kenya. Reason being, when we had the lockdown and the curfews of 7 o'clock, where restaurants, the schools were closed, I mentioned this, we did not see any movement of milk going to the formal segment. So we want to understand what is the actual size of this informal market. As much as we're still talking about 70%, it may not be 70%, it may be less, maybe more. So we'll be doing that study, and very soon we'll be inviting you back to disseminate the same. So what is our future outlook? The dairy sector, it is going to grow in terms of population. People are going to move to urban centers, so there will be demand for, of course, quality processed milk, which is good for us. GDP is going to grow. The demand for milk is going to increase. So we also need to look at what we need to do. We need to double population and improve productivity per animal. So thank you. That's the end of my presentation. I made it very short. We have many things to have said, but for this today, that is all we had. Thank you very much for listening.
So thank you so much, MD. She gave the status of the dairy sector. And now, because of time, I'm going to invite the next speaker, which is a presentation from Tetra Pak. So I'm assuming is Jackie. And the members of the media are also requesting for them to be able to get a good print shot. But for a few seconds, you also remove the mask so that they have to get a good shot. So please. Just so long as you're social distancing.
Okay. Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperatives, Honorable Peter Munya, Chief Administrative Secretary, Honorable Lina Chebikilimo, Chairman Kenya Dairy Board, MD Kenya Dairy Board, Chairman, businessmen, members of the dairy fraternity, good morning. As you can see, I am not Jonathan Kinisu. Yeah. Jonathan Kinisu is our MD, and he has sent his apologies. He would have loved to be here today, but he had a prior engagement, and he sends his greetings to us all this morning. So my name is Jacqueline Kitoni Arao, and I am the Marketing Director at Tetra Pak East Africa, and I am very honored to be here this morning to speak about the dairy sector during this period. So as I have been advised, I can take off my mask for a few minutes, then we can see each other, then we shall continue on with the program. So this is how I look, and we can proceed. So I'm here on behalf of Tetra Pak, and as we know, Tetra Pak is a company that has been present in this market for several years. Tetra Pak believes in a dream and in a vision of making food safe and available everywhere. And this is a vision that Ruben Rousing started in 1951. And it is a vision that we're making a reality at this point in time. And thanks to the partners who are in this room and others who are not here, we are making this a reality. How do we plug in as Tetra Pak? we start off from dairy development, the back end, working with farmers and working to support increasing the yield and the quality of milk. And then coming to the processing and the packaging solution, marketing and data insights, and that is what I'll be speaking on today. And from there, look at, future trends. What is the market looking like? So down to the reason why we're here today in regards to COVID and what has been happening in the dairy industry. So whatever I'm presenting today is a summary of various researches that have been done and various information that we have interacted with members of the dairy fraternity. And I will also talk about what we can be able to do to support this. Now, I will also be assisted by my able colleagues. I came with a team, and this is a team of 2, and I'd like them to please stand up as I just quickly introduce them before I go into the impact, so that in case I call on one, they can be able to support us. So with me here is Stella Ondimu, and Stella Ondimu is our communications manager for Africa. So that is Stella Ondimu. And we have Sami Chepkwony. Sami Chepkwony is in charge of our key customers within the region. So they will be supporting me on this as well, in case there are any questions. So as we know, during this period, we have had different impacts and different challenges in business. And some of them are positive, but majority of them are negative. So how are we able to survive, and what are these challenges that have been taking place? So let's start with the positive. So some of the positive impacts that we have seen on businesses and what they have been able to do during this period is on occupational health and safety, right? Occupational health and safety, or OHS as we used to know it, is something that most processors or all processors adhere to, right? But at this point in time, it has gone to the next level, where we are able to physically plan out, are our employees safe? How are they performing? How is the environment that they are working in? How do we ensure that we keep them safe and work goes on? So occupational health and safety has become extremely critical, and that is something that we are seeing will continue to be focused for business. So that is one of the positive impacts that we have seen in regards to COVID. Quality. Our MD here spoke about quality, and I know all other speakers who will be coming after me will also dwell on quality. Quality is extremely critical for the consumer at this point in time, and all the players that they're ensuring that whatever they're bringing out to the market is of good quality for the end consumer. Then productivity and efficiency in all operations, because a lot of organizations have had to restructure, downsize, and just make do with limited resources. So with those limited resources, we have had to ensure that whatever you're doing to the best of your ability. So productivity, efficiency, that is something that we have also seen coming out. And it's something very, very good, and I'm sure it will also continue moving forward. And impact on people. So employees in organizations have had to rethink and had to plan how do they manage their work-life balance, working from home, working from different sites, engaging with each other on a virtual platform. And that is something that is supporting and will continue to support us as we move forward. So as much as there are positive impacts, a lot of what has come in during this period is a bit on the negative side. And some of these include the challenges in global supply. Now, for Tetra Pak, we rely a lot on global supply. And during the first few months, we really had a big challenge trying to get in our raw materials so that we can be able to convert them in. And this, in turn, affected regional supply to our processors and our partners who are here right now. So that is a challenge that I'm sure if we have a moment to speak, we will all mention it to an extent. Then that brought out a challenge in raw materials, procuring raw materials. Because of forecasting, as we heard earlier on, March, April, May, there was a boom. when we looked at the months following a decline. So in terms of forecasting, it became a challenge, and that brought about a challenge in procuring raw materials because you're not sure how the trend is going to be. So that is a huge, huge challenge for any businessman, because with poor forecasting and with poor planning, your books will not be reflecting well. Yeah? And then we saw border challenges. Border challenges here, we're looking at 80 kilometers worth of trucks stuck at the borders, challenges with clearance, 2 weeks or more, and that really impacted the business in the region around us. Employee retention, I think I don't need to dwell much, restructuring, downsizing, and that for any business is not an easy task, and it really impacted operations. And of course, distribution challenges. For all the processors here, they can attest to the fact that this has been the most challenging period when it comes to distribution. Route to market was challenged, and everyone had to think differently. How do we reach the end consumer? And it's not just the businesses that were affected. We had consumers who are also affected. Now, consumers are the backbone of everything we do, from the farmer to the processor to the retailer. They're all looking at the end consumer. And the consumer had a different place. He was in a different space. He was fearful. And with this fear, he changed his habits. He changed a lot of what he took, how he moved around, how he shopped, and a lot of that now affected our businesses. Reduced spend. We can all attest that at this point in time, everyone is holding on to the money that they have. And whatever spend that is made everyone is calculating. So reduced spend also affects us, yeah? And then change in consumer shopping habits. We saw the way consumers went and were picking everything from the shops, and that is in the modern trade. The few Kenyans, because those are the ones with enough disposable income. There were those who were relying on a daily wage. Their shopping habits also changed. And for us as a business fraternity, that really impacted us. There was also the move to online media and shopping habits. And it's something I'll mention later on we'll need to adapt as we move forward. And then consumption patterns. School milk, you know the challenge right now since schools are not there. Small pack sizes, also a slight decline because children are home, families are home. So family packs are the ones that are selling, yeah, because of in-home consumption. So hosting is no longer there. So everyone has shifted in terms of how do they consume their dairy products. So here I am looking at milk, yogurt, cheese, flavored milk. All of that changed. For the trade, of course, I mentioned the route to market. There was a challenge in there. And here, processors had to rethink, how do they reach the wholesaler? How do they reach their distributor? How do they reach the end retailer? And who will in turn sell to the consumer at the most cost-effective way. And this is something that we are all adjusting, and the processors are all adjusting. But the thing is, we have to ensure that we have value in the value chain. We can be able to make money in the route to market strategy. Then some outlets closed. I mean, that is standard. From research that was carried out, it was estimated that within the month of April and May, dairy players lost about 5,000 outlets. Now, you may think that 5,000 outlets is not much, right? But we're looking at a coverage of about 128,000 outlets where dairy, and here I'll refer to white milk, has a numeric handling of about 20%, right? So you're playing in the 20% of the 128,000, and you have lost 5% of your current handling. So you've lost 5,000 outlets of that handling. That is huge. So for you to be able to make more money, you need to sell to more outlets, and it's a challenge to reach to those outlets. So it is a huge challenge for us in the dairy sector, and we need to see and transform and understand how are we able to grow that. Then, of course, we saw a decline in the chilled milk. And this affected the business for most of the processors, because now consumers' shopping habits are changing, and they're preferring to go to the stores less. They're preferring to stock up if they can, and they're looking also at the element of quality. Cost of poor quality is very expensive, because for someone who does not have a salary at the end of the month, if he buys a dairy product that is not good for his family, what happens is the child falls sick, or she falls sick and she cannot work. She has to take the child to a hospital or get medication for that child. So cost of poor quality is very expensive for the end consumer. So we always have to ensure that quality is key in whatever we do. And I'm very, very happy to say, because we as Tetra Pak are exposed to a lot of the processing that happens in this country. And we're very proud to say that there has been a tremendous increase and an improvement in the quality that is out there at this point in time. So I'd like to really applaud all the processors who are here at this point. So we have seen the impacts that came in with COVID, but I think Kenyans are very resilient, and Kenyans can withstand and stand up to the challenges that come up and succeed. And we are succeeding, or trying to succeed, trying to get there. So from what I have mentioned, there are certain things in terms of technologies and solutions that we can be able to look at so that we can manage and have a sustainable dairy business in this country. And here I will be looking at from the business side, and from the business side I will be looking at the processors, manufacturers, and those who play in that space. And I will also be looking at the consumer angle. So how do we address the value chain at this point? And here, looking at the business angle, how do we ensure that as the processor, as the manufacturer, we're able to get the best at this point so that we can succeed? The first thing is, right now, when we have declined or we have reduced our processing or our packaging of milk and yogurt or different dairy products, we need to look at our business and we need to review the total cost of ownership. By total cost of ownership, at this point in time, I am referring to how efficient is our plant? How productive is it? Are we really utilizing our assets to the best capability? So at this time, it's also a time to reflect and look at our operations and see where is it slipping? Where are we able to save on certain costs? So at this time, we really need to look at our total cost of ownership and ensure that it is as efficient and as productive as possible. So that is the one thing as a dairy player at this point you need to be seriously assessing, because if you do not do it now and things sail back to the way it is, you will be left out by the wave, because you will not have another period to rethink about your business. It will be business as usual, and you'll realize, oh, my machines are not working well, I'm utilizing a lot of energy or water. So this is the time to reflect. From the back end, from the farmers, how are we collecting milk? Is it efficient? Is it safe? Is it a good method in terms of collecting and transporting it to the processor? These are things that we need to look at, because it needs to be very, very efficient. And it goes back to the processing and the packaging. As you process and as you package your product, are you also having good technology to support you in that? Are you having technology that will take you to the next level? And here I can stand proud that Tetra Pak is able to support you with the right technology, the right processing packaging that will be able to make your business, perform and move to the next level. So we also need to take up systems that can support in water and energy saving. So as you look at your production, how much water are you using? Is it because your machines are, getting a bit old, and with wear and tear, then your costs go up. So we need to analyze and see where are the gaps in terms of equipment, in terms of energy saving, in terms of cost. And this falls back to sustainability. I think we are all living in a world where we are very keen on ensuring sustainability is top in terms of our discussion and our conversation. So we need to look at that. Then differentiation. Here, differentiation, we're looking at product offering. What is it that you're offering to the consumer? Packaging, and what is your key message? And here I would really like to emphasize on the long life products or the UHT products. The reason why I'm emphasizing on it is because these products are able to reach the farthest part of the market with limited distribution costs. So if we want to make sure that food is available to majority of people in the farthest of places in Kenya, in East Africa, it is always good if you have a long life product, because it will be safe and it will be able to reach the furthest point of the distribution chain. And finally, communication to the end consumer. I don't think this is the time to keep quiet. As a processor, as a manufacturer, as a brand, this is actually the time to speak and be close to the consumer. Make sure your message is visible. Hear what they're saying and see how to react. It can be on the online platform. It can be on the radio. It can be on the TV. It can be, sending random messages to where they can be able to access. But if you stick with your consumer at this time, they will be able to stick with you even through the good times. So this is the time to communicate and just be in the consumer's face. So we have addressed some of the things that a processor can be able to do. But what can we do to ensure that we address the challenge with the consumers? And we know that the consumers are changing. Their habits are changing. Their thoughts are changing. And what we need to understand now is, where are they? Once we know where they are, then we can be able to reach them at that point. So we will speak to them at their level. We will address their current needs. So that is the most important thing to address the consumer. We need to understand their needs and adjust to it. So if it is online shopping that they're doing in the urban areas, apply to all those online platforms and start distributing. And I'm very proud to say that I have seen a lot of processors, and they have online presence and online shopping, which is very, very commendable. And that is the way to go. We need to adjust and adapt and move forward. Yeah? Availability. And here I am not talking about the regular availability, because you can say that you're available. Right now it is speed to availability. You must be quick, because we know that the retailer is not stocking as much as he used to because of limited cash flow. That Duka, instead of buying 5 cartons, he will buy 2. So because he is buying 2 cartons, he will still sell them, but how fast are you able to replenish the extra cartons? So it is speed to availability. We have to ensure that. Second thing is price. I do not need to mention a lot on price. Price sensitivity is extremely critical. And milk has been commoditized at this point in time. So the secret to being successful is not playing in the price war, in the price game. It is to look at the back end of your production and to see, where can I be able to save on my cost so that I can make the most and still offer the consumer an affordable quality product. So as it leads me back to my point of total cost of ownership. let us analyze our businesses at this point so that we can offer a very affordable, price-sensitive product to the consumer. Quality, quality, quality. We cannot compromise on quality. The way we run our factories, the way we run our productions, the way we run the farmers, the way we support, we have to ensure quality. And that is the song, I think, from now to forever, because consumers are now more aware of quality and we have to produce quality products. Cost of poor quality is too expensive. We cannot take it now. And continuous communication to the consumer. I think that is very straightforward. Something that we are doing as Tetra Pak in regards to continuous communication, because at this point we are not able to meet physically or have large gatherings and address the issue. It's on online platform. And at this point I would like maybe to just briefly say, as a processor, as a manufacturer, you can be able to have presence on the online platform. At Tetra Pak, during this period, we have been trying to speak about long life milk. So these are just small snapshots of our Facebook page and our online presence. So please like Tetra Pak page and see the communication that is out there in regards to long life milk, because there is a lot we're trying to educate the consumer on what we're doing and how long life milk can be able to be part of their lives at this point in time. And as the processor, as a manufacturer, as Kenya Dairy Board, there is a lot we can do on the online platform at this point. And finally, I'd like to mention sustainability. In regards to sustainability, we live in a world where we want to take care of everything that is there so that we can have it for our children and our children's children. And I like the move that the government is making in regards to, supporting the environment and ensuring that things are being done as they should. And one of the things that we need to look at is on sustainability. So in this aspect, I'll touch on sustainability in regards to water saving and energy saving, and this can be tackled through some of the solutions that we have as Tetra Pak to be able to support you, save on your water and on your energy consumptions in your production. The other thing that I will touch on is on recycling, because recycling is the future. We have to ensure that we reduce, reuse, and recycle, and we create our circular economy. So at this time, during this period, what can we be able to do to support the sustainability story? And we need to increase awareness, more consumer awareness in regards to sustainability and recycling. In Kenya, we do have recyclers who handle or who recycle carton packaging, and we know even for plastic there are those who do that. So as a business fraternity, we need to speak up more about recycling and what can be done, and we alert consumers to start the trend of recycling. We need to support the collection and sorting and need an infrastructure to support that. This can be done through us as well. The solutions are right here with us, so it is just a matter of discussing how do we support the sustainability story and how do we take it to the next level. We need to boost business opportunities. Even as a processor, you could see the potential that you have. Your own packs you can be able to recycle and create things that can go back to the environment, can go back to the community. At this point in time, with the carton recycling, we transform them into boards. And these boards are used to make ceiling boards, to partition classrooms, make desks, chairs. So a lot can be done, and we need to start having those conversations and executing them. Not having conversations alone, but executing. And finally, we need to expand the opportunity for recycled material. Once you have those products, we need to use them. Why not have a dining table made of recycled paper? A house, you can create a house with recycled material. So we need to look in that angle. So in summary, and in conclusion, in Tetra Pak, we are confident that we can deliver, but we know we can deliver through you, our partners, Kenya Dairy Board, the government, we can be able to deliver through you. But the starting point is the confidence. We are confident that we can be able to deliver. So when it comes to investment, investment is very critical, and we do not take it for granted. So if you invest, we are committed to supporting you grow in that area. So investment is extremely critical, and we are committed to making you grow. We do not compromise on food quality. Safety is top on our agenda, so we do not compromise on that. And we're working towards industry leadership. And I thank our partners who are here, those who are not here, Kenya Dairy Board and the government, for ensuring that we are able to do what we can and to ensure that we succeed in what we do. And lastly, whatever we're doing here and tomorrow and the day after, it's a major transformation, and we cannot be able to do it on our own. So we will still continue on partnership and collaboration to ensure that we succeed and we walk the journey as we should. There's normally that African proverb, if you want to go fast, you go alone. But if you want to go far, you join with others and you move together. So with that, I would like to thank you all for your time. Thank you for even the discussions that we will have after. And please, we're here. Sami is here, Stella is here, I'm still here. Let's engage, let's have more conversation. And from this gathering today, my hope is that we'll be able to come up with concrete facts that we can be able to execute to grow the dairy sector. The more the dairy sector succeeds, the more we succeed. So let us work together to ensure that. Thank you very much.
So thank you, Stella. That was a presentation from Tetra Pak, which is a leading solution provider of packaging materials, both locally and globally. And the next presenter is Nabila. When I asked him what he wants to talk about, he said he's talking about cash cow. And since all of us have invested in dairy to make money, so we want to listen to him. And what I want to say is that we have very good stories and very good things that we can be able to say about the dairy sector. And possibly one day may not be enough to do us justice. But since we have a number of presenters, so I'd kindly request you try and summarize as much as possible so that you all give the other people a chance to present. So Moses.
Thank you.
So 10 minutes, is that okay?
Probably less. So let's see. Yes, Honorable Minister, Honorable C.S. Munya, thank you for the support you're giving farmers. I've seen what you're doing in tea. So when I was asked to come and talk today, I was like, okay, maybe we need to request for something. And if you do it with the same vigor you're doing with the tea sector, maybe you can see a huge difference in this industry. So you'll bear with me if I'm too direct in terms of, what support we need in this industry. And so goes with you, Honorable J.B. Kilimo. Both of you, I know you're dairy farmers. I'm 100% sure, 99% that you're dairy farmers. So I won't be telling you anything new. This industry is an industry that has been, the cornerstone of growth in this country, considering the number of farmers in their millions, considering the number of people it employs, contribution to the economy and whatnot. But it's an industry in decline. Just like our key growth sectors are in decline, and we know it, and that's why you're doing a lot of the things you're doing. So we need to do a lot of things in this industry, and I'm grateful to Kenya Dairy Board for the opportunity to support this industry. So I have a long presentation. I will not take you through it, death by PowerPoint. So I'll say, I've been given an opportunity to work with Kenya Dairy Board on a project called Cash Cow, which is basically saying we have all these cows, so where's the cash? So, and you ask that question to the processors, are we growing? Is the money coming in? Are you making profits? We are seeing profit is in decline, money is in decline, but the number of cows, the number of farmers are going up. So the question is, where's the problem? So I think the industry is in decline in terms of its efficiencies. If we look at the number of cows vis-a-vis how much we're producing, you're seeing 7 liters of milk per cow, that if you fed for 20, about 30 days, for about a month, if you feed them properly, they can give you up to 20 liters of milk. So we can do more. So, but I'll talk about, I work closely with dairy cooperatives, and I know the challenges they're facing. So if you want to know the challenges facing farmers, you work with cooperatives. So we have seen that the farmers are not making money at the moment. So I'll speak to just a few slides. I've said this is an industry in decline. You can see productivity is really way below compared to what we can do. So the yield gaps is just too much. We can do much more with what we have. So we need to reorganize. It's an industry that the demand is growing. Until COVID, I think we were projected to grow at about 7.4% per annum. So, and a lot of that milk was actually coming from Uganda, increasingly, because we are producing less. So we need to do more with less. So a number of these farmers are organized into cooperatives, which is really good. So in many ways, we are getting organized. So about 300,000 farmers are in cooperatives, and they're actually increasingly doing a lot of other things, building circles and whatnot. If you go out there, you really get encouraged. So again, what we are saying is there's a lot of effort out there that needs to be supported. Banks are increasingly also focusing on this industry. I was speaking to Equity Bank. They want to increase their lending up to about 30% into farming, which translates to billions of shillings. So there's a way we can partner with them. The likes of Cooperative Bank are also wanting to put a bit of money. So it's an industry that is challenged, but it's an industry that faces opportunities in terms of growing demand, but also an industry that is getting reorganized. So the question is, how do we invest in those things that we're doing that can really take advantage of the growing demand and therefore create jobs? So, we did a quick analysis with farmers where they are today. A typical farmer with 3 cows, 7 liters of milk, getting about 30 shillings per liter of milk from processor, they're not making money. They're actually making, for every cow, they're actually making minus 8 shillings per cow per day. This is if you factor labor, because remember, farmers need to pay themselves. So if you factor labor, they're not making money. In fact, per month, they're making minus. So the farmers, 3 cows, not feeding them well, 7 liters, they're not making losses. We did the same analysis, again, with the same farmer. If we're able to support them to produce fodder competitively, produce silage competitively, you can see they can make money. If the same farmer increases the number of cows to about 6, they can make even more money per year. If you factor labor, if you factor it back labor, assuming that they are using family labor, they make even more money. So what we are saying, it's possible to make money, but we need to address the issue of feed. So really that's the biggest challenge facing farmers today, and they can only do it in an organized manner. A typical farmer with less labor cannot produce enough for the cow and for the family as well. So it's very difficult. So we are suggesting some things based on those opportunities. What I would say in general is that this industry has been built based on increasing number of farmers, number of factories, and whatnot. We've been growing, especially on the factor side, putting in a lot more resources. What we need now is to reverse, to start consolidating and become more efficient. So we need to see now less cows producing more milk. We need to see less farmers producing more milk. In other words, if a cooperative does 100,000 liters of milk, you do analysis, they can do 500,000. It's like, can we support you to reach 500,000? So then we'll be able to get more efficient and therefore reverse our issues on export and whatnot, the challenges that we are facing. So really that's the journey. So what are we proposing? And we are working with Dairy Board and private sector. There's a project called Cash Cow, which is led by Kenya Dairy Board, and then it has many other partners. ADC is with us on this, fodder associations. We have the likes of Toyota, Coop Bank, Family Bank, Performiter, so they're working with us. So what we are saying is that we can work with 100,000 farmers in about 100 cooperatives to increase production significantly. So what we are saying is work with those 100 cooperatives, give them land, especially in the likes of ADC, Calro. We've done quick analysis. The government is the richest when it comes to land, and a lot of it is lying fallow. Can we take that land, support cooperatives to produce fodder commercially, mechanized, irrigated, so we're able to get 2-3 seasons from one farm? We can support farmers, 100,000 of them, to instead of delivering 700,000 liters of milk we are getting today, we can double this milk collection to about 1.4 billion liters of milk, reduce costs and other things significantly, and be able to create close to about 30,000 jobs in the process. Because again, we know for every 1,000 liters of milk, we're able to create certain number of jobs. So really, this is what we are suggesting. The other thing we're also suggesting to go with this is a fund. We are looking at about 5 billion shilling fund that we can work with banks to create. The banks are very good today. You work with them, you put in 5%, they are able to actually multiply it about 20 times in terms of what they can lend, and lengthen the period of lending so that farmers can have money to invest, because mechanization costs money, irrigation costs money, you know. So a lot of these things need to be done, and need to be done end to end. So Bonagedi, this is where we need processors like yourselves to say, if we are working with a typical cooperative, can we produce 3 times that, and then work with them on that specific plan, working with government, provide land to support this. So if we want to grow this industry, this is a quick one, because government already has land. The banks are already ready to lend. They just need government to say, let's work together. The processors need milk, and they're ready to pay for it. And if not, they're importing. Consumers are ready. So really, this is something we need to do. Tetra Pak and others we've spoken. I think we are going somewhere on this. It's not something we will be starting. It's something that has started. We actually, my company, Endless Africa, is working with farmers in Nyandarua and ADC to now begin producing fodder. In ADC Lanet, they also have some land in Naivasha. So these are things we need to expedite, and we can really go somewhere. So this is our request, 100,000 acres of land to support cooperatives, and consultants here are ready to work with cooperatives to do feed plans and whatnot to really get those things going. And then we get banks. Banks are ready even now. If we call them, they can actually converge and say we are able to put in a fund to work with these farmers. So nothing complicated. It doesn't require too many donors. It can be done. And Kenya Dairy Board, thank you for supporting.
So thank you so much, Moses. The next presentation is from the GM Promaco. We are going to be able to upload all these presentations in our website, and also send via email to all of you, so at least you have then an opportunity of seeing the detailed presentation. 5 minutes? 10 minutes.
Honourable Cabinet Secretary Munya, Chief Administrative Secretary, Madam MD, Dairy Board, Chairman, Managing Distinguished Guests, good morning. My name is Colm Delea. I'm General Manager of Promaco East Africa, and I'm very pleased to be here this morning under the invitation of Madam MD, Dairy Board, to talk about the impact on the value-added dairy sector of COVID-19 and our concepts and suggestions in terms of how we can support our partners in the dairy value chain to overcome the current challenges and to come out together stronger from this environment. Who are we? Promarco East Africa is East Africa's leading supplier of specialty food ingredients to the dairy sector. We were established in 1998 together with our partners Christian Hansen to introduce the idea or the concept of commercial value addition to milk through direct VAT-set culture technology. And today I'm very proud to say that we support the daily production of in excess of 250 metric tons of yogurt, over 150 metric tons of cultured milk, and over 10 metric tons of cheese on a daily basis by over 500 dairy processors, from the very smallest cottage industries to the very largest, some of whom are here with us today. We partner with world-leading manufacturers to bring the highest quality solutions, the latest innovations to our partners, and we operate through a regional network of offices and warehouses across East Africa and through a team of 35 individuals, half of whom are technically trained dairy and food scientists. Our partners are household names in the food ingredients industry. They are either number 1 or number 2 in the world for what they do. And between our 5 partners and ourselves as Promarco, we have a combined experience of 675 years in specialty ingredients manufacture and distribution and formulation support to our customers in the dairy sector. We invest over 500 million euros per year in research and development to make sure that we are constantly bringing relevant technologies and innovations to our customers in the dairy category. What do we believe in? We believe in true partnership with our customers and our value chain partners and our principals through 1, bringing the very highest quality ingredients that are available in the local market and stocking them locally for our customers across the region. Making sure that our customers get value from these ingredients by supporting them technically and through innovation support that is locally based in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, wherever. And thirdly, and most importantly, supporting them through reliability and supply chain. We all know that milk comes from the cow 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Our partners in processing simply cannot afford to be short of the critical ingredients that they need to convert that milk into a value-added dairy product. So it is up to us to ensure continuity of supply chain. And I'm very proud to stand in front of you today and say that despite the challenges, significant challenges that we faced during this period of COVID-19, we have not let a single customer down short of stock in any of our regional operations. We have worked 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to make sure that our customers' factories are able to continue turning and taking that milk from the farmer and turning it into a high-value product. So, to get to the focus of today's discussion, what has been the impact of COVID-19, particularly on the value-added segment? We've heard the impact on the broader industry, but what has it done to value-added products like flavored milk, like yogurt, matindi, maziwa lala, and cheese? Unfortunately, we have seen a very big impact. On average, our customers are seeing volumes down anywhere from 30 to 50%. If you look into specific segments within the value-added category, those most exposed to HoReCa, hotels, restaurants, cafes, here that's mostly cheese and industrial producers of yogurt. Those have been the worst impacted, as you would likely imagine, due to the closure of many of these outlets. And it's great that we can gather today, finally again in a hotel and get together, and we've had yogurt here this morning, and we're fortunately seeing volumes slowly starting to rebuild in that segment of the market. We've been painfully reminded that yogurt is still very much a luxury item for many households in East Africa. Volumes have been down anywhere between 30 and 40%. And at the peak of the crisis, I think most of our processing partners were producing less than 50% of their average yogurt volumes. Yogurt is still very much a luxury consumption item. So when people become much more concerned about their disposable income and the certainty of where their next paycheck is coming, yogurt is one of the first things to get eliminated from the shopping basket. On the other hand, cultured milk volumes have actually been very surprisingly resilient. And that plays into two aspects. One, cultured milk, maziwa lala as it's traditionally called here in Kenya, is a more affordable product. The formulation is somewhat more simple than making a yogurt or a flavored milk. Therefore, it's more accessible. It's also traditionally consumed alongside traditional meals. Ugali and sukuma wiki we've all grown up on in this country, and we know that maziwa lala is traditionally consumed alongside ugali and sukuma wiki. So as consumers have reverted to more traditional consumption patterns, they've sustained the consumption of cultured milk. Fortunately, we have seen volumes picking up. So August has been progressively better than July, which was progressively better than June. And we're very pleased to see this, because obviously this value chain supports those 4 million farmers in Kenya to get their daily check, and our processing partners also to earn their income. And as Madam MD showed us, we have a structural problem in this country in terms of capacity utilization of our processing facilities. There's a huge amount of capital that has been sunk into processing equipment, and we need as much as possible to fill those lines to make sure that we are making a return on investment and the whole value chain prospers. Fortunately, longer term, we believe that the outlook for the industry is still positive. Consumption per 5 and 7% of that is turned into a high-value product. As we all know, high-value products are typically higher margin. So for the processor to invest in, there is an incremental return on investment from high-value products. And hopefully, as the population continues to grow and GDP per capita continues to expand, the accessibility of those high-value products to the consumer will continue to grow. There is a need, however, within high-value to see much more differentiation of products. If you look at what can be produced, for instance, with a thermophilic yogurt culture, there's probably 10 or 15 different types of yogurt that one could consume. Whereas in Kenya, we are only really familiar with one type of yogurt. That's thick, spoonable, what we call stirred yogurt. And we see the need, and we're having constant discussions with our partners, our customers in the industry, to continue to innovate and diversify within value-added products. Equally, within flavored milk, there's a huge need to continue to diversify within flavored milk products. And we stand here ready to support our customers with these technologies and innovations to allow them to continue and differentiate and innovate relevantly for the market. And as we've heard from Moses, from Madam MD, we have a serious structural issue in terms of cost of raw material in Kenya. And it got to a critical phase, as we're all aware, at the end of last year and early this year. Our structural cost competitiveness from a raw milk perspective needs serious addressing if we're going to continue to be able to grow and sustain investment and growth of our industry. We really do need to look at the raw material cost structure in our region, and I commend the efforts that Moses has been talking about there to see how we can unbundle and de-bottleneck the milk processing end of the value chain. Because with a competitive raw milk supply, there is no limitation to what we can do in terms of adding value to that and growing the income and wealth across the value chain. We spoke together with Madam MD and Jonathan of Tetra Pak a couple of weeks ago on a webinar organized by Food Business Africa. And in this discussion, we presented a survey that was conducted by one of our partners, Firmenich, on how has consumer behavior changed during COVID-19. Our partners, Firmenich, our global number 2 manufacturer of flavors. And they conducted a very interesting survey during the course of COVID-19 in 3 waves. The first wave was in February, March, the second in April, May, and the third in June, July. And the goal of this survey was to try and understand how have consumers changed their behavior in response to COVID-19, and through the different stages of COVID-19, what of those changes have become sticky and what have become transient. And what we've seen that is of those trends that have become most sticky, first and foremost, quality now matters more than it has ever mattered before. Fortunately, in Kenya, our consumers have always been quality conscious, but as our incomes shrink, we become much more concerned about how we are spending that little penny that we have. And we are selecting brands that we trust, brands that we know, and that we know will give us a healthy, nutritious, consistent product of quality. We are also much more concerned about our health. Within this survey, I think between 35 and 50% of people noted a lack of movement, an increase in waist size, unfortunately, and bloating. So consumers are choosing products that are better for their health. They're eating more naturally. They are trying to reduce their calorie intake. And very interestingly, they are looking specifically for consumption items or food products that enable them to boost or are known to boost immunity. So we're thinking here, especially in the dairy category, where we already have a healthy and nutritious product, where milk is a great avenue to bring healthy and nutritious, enriched products to consumers, products such as probiotic yogurt, prebiotic yogurt, in terms of boosting immunity. We're also looking at less sugar. How can consumers reduce their calorie intake? On average, a yogurt product in Kenya is anywhere between 7 to 10% added sugar. It's a huge amount when you consider that a soda is only 12 to 15%, and the negative stigma that carbonated soft drinks typically have. So we, I think, responsibly within the industry, we need to also think, how do we help our consumers eat healthier within the dairy category? Then we have the issue of saving money. As Jackie clearly pointed out, we are all much more conscious about how we spend these days. Many of us have lost our jobs, or certainly the certainty and the amount of the next paycheck has become significantly in question. So how can we help our customers to innovate, to improve affordability? How can we help our customers to produce a high quality product at a lower price point? How can we help our customers to innovate, to produce a high quality product in a lower pack size that is more affordable to the consumer on the street or in the supermarket? you have the environmental impact side of things, where we're all looking to operate better for the environment through wasting less, using more renewable resources. And I'm very proud to stand here today as a representative of our partners who, as I said, are investing over €500 million annually in research and development, each of them at the leading edge of their industry, trying to find solutions for the value chain that are more sustainable, like bioprotection, for instance, these bioprotective cultures, or probiotics, for instance, for dairy cattle, that both help to improve the output of the dairy animal, reduce the antibiotic intake, and also reduce the bacterial load of the milk that is coming out of those animals. Ambient yogurt, Jackie's talked about long shelf life products. The more that we can extend shelf life for products such as yogurt or milk, the less waste there is along the value chain. And CP Kelco, our partners, have supported the significant growth in ambient yogurt technologies. They have over 60% market share globally in ambient yogurt stability solutions. So we're here today to partner with our customers and the value chain to make sure that we are operating better for the environment. But in this environment, I think all of us are also focused on current business sustainability. How do we keep our doors open, our employees employed, and our families eating, and the farmers receiving their paycheck? So how can we help our customers ensure their profitability, making sure that they are consistently producing a high quality product that is relevant to the market at the right cost, making sure that when that milk is coming to the factory, that they have the raw materials there and the specialty ingredients that they need to convert that milk into the value-added product consistently. And making sure that we're supporting them through innovation and growth. How can we support you to address those trends that we've talked about? The trend towards more natural products, the trend towards less sugar, the trend towards immunity-boosting probiotic foods, for instance. And how can we bring those technologies to our partners across the value chain? And lastly, I would just like to make a brief point on Kenya during COVID-19. We've had a very open and enjoyable conversation with Mr. Macharia of Kinnicop Dairy as we were waiting for today's events to get going. And I must say, I think Kenya is an example to the rest of the world in terms of management and response to the COVID-19 situation from a business perspective. We are very proud of what our government has done in this country to ensure that from a health perspective, the pandemic has not got too out of control, but also that businesses have been able to survive and continue. And I would just like to offer my thanks on behalf of the industry to the Cabinet Secretary for both Trade and Agriculture and MD Dairy Board for your significant support during this difficult time. We have found that the government of Kenya has been very pro-business in their approach. Any time that we have faced challenges, we have found that we have received support as a provider of essential services, and we would just like to say asante sana and well done.
Thank you so much, Colm. That is from Promaco, who are leading suppliers of dairy ingredients and technology. And now we want to listen to a very key player in the sector, that is the dairy farmer. And that is going to be done by Mr. Osula, who is a representative of Federation of Kenya Dairy Farmers. And he's going to talk about matters of dairy production. Bwana Henry Osula.
Good afternoon again, ladies and gentlemen. CS Agriculture, Honorable Peter Munya, CAS, Honorable Lina Kilimo, Chairman, Kenya Dairy Board, MD, Kenya Dairy Board, members of the press, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Henry Otsula. I'm a representative of Kenya Dairy Farmers Federation. Kenya Dairy Farmers Federation is a body formed to develop and protect the dairy industry from the advocacy angle. Normally, Bwana CS, we always speak in very high tones, but today I want to say a few things which might change the way we have been looking at life. I would like, first of all, to appreciate the efforts that have been made by the government of Kenya through the various interventions that we have been told about this morning. We have been told about the increase in the chilling capacity, and most of the coolers, high percentage has been bought by the government. We also appreciate the controlled milk importation, and particularly so the activities of the Kenya Dairy Board last year when they mopped out the excess milk and also looked for those guys who were bringing in milk that was not legal into the system. We appreciated that work. We also thank the government for having steadied and stabilized the price of milk. I think this year you have not had the farmers making a lot of noise because we haven't had milk fluctuations. Our problem, Bwana CS, actually is when prices fluctuate. Because when prices fluctuate, then I cannot plan my system. Even if the price is not too good, but if it's constant, then I know what to expect and I know how to plan. I would like to hinge my presentation this morning on 3 production parameters. One, and all of them have been mentioned, by the way. I don't need to give statistics to prove because they have already been talked about. One is availability of quality feed. Availability meaning at all times, because the fluctuation that we get in this country from the farmer's perspective is through, first and foremost, from the fluctuation in the feed availability. As we go into harvesting period, particularly in the Rift Valley and Western, you will see a lot of milk coming. It will be coming because people have already harvested and the grounds are free. So what Bwana Nyabila talked about is one of the things that we are also going to recommend. Then there is an issue of marketing, which has also been discussed by all the presenters who have been here. And there is a new issue that I'm going to introduce, Bwana CS, on extension services. The COVID-19 pandemic has been blamed by everybody. But for me, I used to work in research, and we used to believe that positive and negative results are equally important. This disease has come and has come to teach us certain things. We depend on imported raw materials that we can produce for our feeds. And if I remember what President Magufuli said, he said, wakikuja muwauzie kwa bei ghali mno. Na hao ni sisi. He was not talking about anybody else. He was talking about us. So are we going to sit around priding ourselves as an agricultural country when we shall be going to buy at bei ghali mno? I think that is something that we should think about. And we are happy because I think we have had the ministry and the government talking about revamping cotton. Let's also talk about revamping other oil crops like sunflower, like soybean, so that we can be self-reliant, because this is going to solve the problem we are talking about here, the problem of high production cost. We can also, and I've also had a discussion in the press and also in certain forums about introducing planting of yellow maize specifically for fodder. And I think it would be another way of reducing production cost. I will not talk about commercialization of fodder production because Mr. Nyabila has talked about it and he has already told us what they want to do. When we come to marketing, what we have talked about here is after the milk is produced onwards. But we have not talked about the cow, the production, and how it enters the market. Bwana Chairman, Kenya Dairy Board, there are regulations that have been proposed, and I think these regulations address a lot about business of raw milk. And if these regulations were to come into place today, it will help us, because then we will control how the milk enters the market. I do not want to reach a stage when I'm saying that a hawker is an illegal businessman. No, a hawker may not be an illegal businessman, but he's not businessing in quality, which we have been talking about here. So can we open up so that he businesses in quality? Even the milk bars we are talking about. If you go and inspect those milk bars, you might find that the milk that I produce and give is not the milk that Honorable CS will come and buy. It will be that milk plus. And we want to remove that plus so that we ensure quality for our people. So if you could help us, Bwana CS, to bring about these regulations so that these regulations come into play. At first, I know as a farmer, we really objected to those regulations. True. We even called press conferences and called you names. Yeah. But when we sat down together and talked over it together and looked at what she was saying, we found that there was a lot of sense. Na tukapiga bautani, na tukafuata. So I am glad that farmers are now being recognized as key stakeholders, and what they say and what they recommend is also considered. And if it is not taken, we are given a feedback as to why it has not been taken. I I want to thank the government for bringing the cooperative department in the Ministry of Agriculture, because most of the cooperatives that we have in Kenya, other than the SACCOs, are agriculture based. However, there is a weak link somewhere. The Cooperative Act gives the individual cooperative power to form bylaws that administer the cooperative. A very democratic thing. But I can say without fear of contradiction that blanket democracy is not always the best. Because you'll do a bylaw, you want to make sure that whoever sits on the board of a cooperative primarily has the interest of the commodity he is promoting. So you say, you must show your interest in this trade. And this guy goes and gets a few fellas who are not understanding, and he says, for example, you say, for you to become a member of the cooperative, one, you must have fully paid the share prescription. Number two, you must have saved some money with the cooperative. The reason you want this money to be saved is to be able to run the cooperative, to be able to pay the farmer even when the processor has not paid. This guy goes and gets a few guys and says the rich want to block the poor. They come and tell you that one we cannot pass. Even if I have, say if you have prescribed that you must have 20 shares of 400 shillings each, they say no, even if I have one share, I have a right to sit there. And this is killing our cooperative movement. Then there is something called dispute resolution. That is another very weak point in the cooperative movement. Because for you to resolve your disputes with your debtor or the thief who has been in your cooperative, you have to go before a tribunal. Those tribunals are not in every office. They are in designated places, and they sit at certain times. They don't sit all the times. And you go to the tribunal, it is such a long process that in the cycle, somebody circumvents the process. So we need to relook at the Cooperative Act with a view of strengthening the Cooperative Act. Now, we as farmers recognize and understand the fact that agriculture is a devolved function. Therefore, it is with the counties. But some people somewhere, I don't know who they are, they say the paymaster calls the piper stone. So the ministry is in a position to influence even the policies that work at the county levels, because the money comes from the ministry. Extension services were privatized. Then a skeleton staff was left. The skeleton staff cannot serve the farmers. So instead of leaving a skeleton staff, you better just remove the staff. Because if we can't get the service from them, and they are earning from our taxes, then, but for us what we think is that the ministry should formulate a policy to bring back extension. How they'll do it, that is for the policymakers. If extension came back, various things will happen. One, the uptake of technologies will be faster. Because the extensionist will be able to follow up the farmers that they have been given. We shall therefore have uptake of AI, which will improve our herds, because our herds are not producing 7 liters just because of feeding. Some of them, they have the potential, but they are not being bred properly. It will improve the husbandry, and if it does improve the husbandry, it will improve the quality of the milk. And if it improves the quality of the milk, it will improve our competitiveness in the market. Hygiene will be improved, and if hygiene and disease and breeding will produce higher production, the cost of production will automatically go down. Then we need also to have a fund to cushion the dairy farmer. Everybody in the ministry, Bwana CS, has been cushioned. Sugar people have been cushioned. Tea people have been cushioned. Coffee people have been cushioned. But we, I don't know. I don't want to say we have not been. Finally, because I know that this is going to be uploaded and my farmers whom I represent are going to see, I want just to pass a small message to them. In this very critical time, it is not about profit. It's about survival. So I would like them themselves to survive by observing the government regulations and to fight hard to survive the herds, because after COVID, we shall be there and we shall be eating and we shall be making money. Therefore, I would like to end by once again thanking Kenya Dairy Board for having invited a farmer to come and say something. And Bwana CS, since you came, I think it was sometimes in December or January, I think we have been quiet. We would like to continue like that. Thank you.
So thank you so much, Bwana Usula. And now you also want to listen to another very key player in the sector. That is the representative from Kenya Dairy Processors Association, who is also the MD of New KCC, Bwana Sigei. Karibu sana.
I think, yes, is it afternoon or still morning? Still morning. Maybe we give a few minutes because I'll spend 5 minutes, wait for Waziri. Yes, good morning once again, Cabinet Secretary, Honorable Peter Munya, our CAS, Honorable Chepi Kilimo, and distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'll be very brief in the interest of time, and many issues have actually been talked about, so I don't intend to repeat those issues. But just to say, on behalf of the processors in this country, who are represented by a few members here, I want to say that just like any other sector in the manufacturing, we've not been spared during this period of the pandemic. We have had challenges in doing our business. And this has affected us drastically, and I don't want to repeat them. It has been highlighted by many speakers. But nonetheless, we've put the best foot forward to ensure that the stability of the dairy industry is sustained by all our players. First, by partnering with our key stakeholders, who are the dairy farmers of this country, to ensure that they continue with their business with minimal disruptions, so that at least we are able to still continue getting our key raw material, which is the raw milk supply. And many of them, and they have various places, have had many interventions to support our dairy farmers. And that has gone a long way in creating some stability. However, today we are faced with a serious challenge, which for many years we have never seen in the dairy industry. While we enjoy a relatively very good weather environment for production, it has been different this year. We've had good rains, we've had good climate for production. But nonetheless, as processors, we have registered almost close to 40 to 50% drop in milk intake to our facilities. And that has been the main concern, and that is why we are here today to tell our farmers and encourage our farmers that even during these difficult periods that the country, the globe is going through, we have to still continue putting our best foot forward to ensure that we look after our animals. And I'm happy that the farmer representative who has been here has highlighted those issues of the need that we still continue producing. So that has been our big concern, that the milk intake has drastically dropped, I think by the dairy board standards, 36%, almost 40% in some processors. And they have been really hurting. The processors have actually, during this period of time, for the last 2 months, I want to confirm as their representative that most processors are actually operating under capacity. So we are saying that dairy is very interesting. When we were in November and December, we were in a glad situation. Everybody was crying in this country that there is a lot of milk. Today, we are saying there is no milk in the country. But Waziri, I want to just highlight a few things that today you hear the farmers are saying we've been quiet. What has made them quiet? Waziri, I think it's the government intervention that have been very proactive in trying to stabilize the dairy industry. And one of them, which is very critical, which was done early this year because of the glut situation we were going through, was actually the mopping up of excess milk. There was a lot of noise in December and from November, December, about the pricing of milk. But we want to acknowledge the government support from your ministry that we mop up excess milk to stabilize the prices. I want to confirm here, Waziri, that just like what the farmers have said, from the time we announced that at 3 shillings, the prices have been going up. Now we are even almost getting to 40 shillings as we are talking today. Average is almost 38 because of the forces of demand and supply. We want to still continue with the same spirit to really make sure that farmers get value for their money, for their hard work. And that is the spirit as processors. We want to ensure that that spirit continue. We want to also encourage our farmers that they enhance their production at their farm level. We will continue providing extension services from different companies to support farmers to ensure that we enhance our production from the 7 to 8 liters to at least 15 liters. This will go a long way in managing our cost of production and make the business sustainable. This intervention, Waziri, we were able to mop quite a huge amount of milk and convert it into milk powder. And I want to say that has actually helped. That intervention has helped to stabilize the industry. While we are saying that the production at the farm level has gone down to almost 40% down, at least from the consumer end, the consumers are still having their dairy products at their shelves. It's because of that intervention that we are able to provide our dairy products at good price. There have not been price increase lately because at least we are still able to reconstitute our milk powder and release it to the market. And because of this, the Waziri will make some intervention based on the strategic intervention by government on how we should support the rest of processors. And that is what we want to do. We want to strengthen that so that at least there will be no price fluctuation like what the farmer representatives was talking about. Going forward, it is our commitment as processors that that conversation will actually continue. The other intervention that we want to really acknowledge, Waziri, is for many years, government this time around has come with a lot of force in the management of illegal dairy products coming to this country. And we want, Waziri, on behalf of the dairy processors, on behalf of the farmers of this country, that we register our appreciation. That has been done. It has never been done with the magnitude it has been done this time around. And that has actually given the less noise that you are hearing in the country. We want to acknowledge that. That has been managed well. Dairy Board, as a regulator, and government agencies has done it very well. We want the same spirit to continue so that the dairy farmers and all the other players in the value chain continue enjoying the business. The other intervention which has been very key, which actually from the ministry, is your directive that, you know, the payout to farmers must be actually, most of it, almost 95% should actually go to the farmers. From the directive that cooperatives should actually use not more than 2 shillings as the administrative cost. That has gone a long way in making more money available to the farmers directly. And that is the spirit. Dairy Board has been coordinating this, and that is the spirit as processors we want to continue so that at least much of what we pay out, much of it gets to the farmers. If we are to access West Africa, if we are to access these other countries, we have to be competitive in our pricing. So we want that, if that is possible, it is something that we reduce competition between the white maize and the yellow maize, and that would be good. The other request to Waziri is, as processors, we've gone through quite a number of challenges as far as retail trade is concerned. And many of the members here are actually having a very serious challenge. When the regulations of the retail trade in this country is still very weak, and we really want to request that we strengthen the regulations of the retail trade in this country. The likes of Nakumat and the others having challenges. We want that regulation to be enhanced. If you look at the numbers that, because of delayed payments, that processors go through, it's actually huge. And that has a ripple effect in the development of dairy in this country. So we want more conversation on the regulations of the retail trade. And thirdly, Waziri, recently, I think about 2-3 months ago, there was taxation imposed on dairy equipment. This has not been there before. We are still developing. We want to, most of our members here are asking that to be reconsidered, Waziri, because what happens is we want to encourage these farmers to be efficient, that they are able to buy milking machines, they are able to buy dairy equipments, that they are able to, all these. This will go a long way in developing the dairy. This is a request that is for in future consideration, that we review that so that at least we still continue the development of the dairy sector. I want to end it there, Waziri, that on behalf of the dairy processors in this country, that we are committed to support the dairy farmers of this country in partnership with the regulator, the dairy board. We want to assure you that the general stability, we pride ourselves that except for the month of December, January, dairy has been relatively stable. We want to continue with the same spirit, want to work together closely to ensure that farmers get value for their hard work. That is the commitment as processors we want to put it to you, that we will work with the ministry closely on issues that will go in enhancing productivity in the dairy sector of this country. Thank you very much, Waziri, for coming and gracing this occasion.
So thank you so much, Bwana MD and Chair KDPA. So please allow me to call upon the chairman to come and give his speech, and also request him to invite the CAS, who will eventually invite the chief guest.
Cabinet Secretary, Ministry of Agriculture, Livestock, Fisheries and Cooperatives, Honorable Peter Munya, the Chief Administrative Secretary, Dr. Lina Shibi, the Managing Director of Kenya Dairy Board, Margaret Kibogi, the Chair of the new KCC, who is with us today, directors, processors, partners, stakeholders, national government officials that may be present here, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I shall make my remarks brief because most of what I have to say has been spoken before. But I just want to inform you that this is the first forum that we have held under the new COVID-19 protocols, and we meet under very difficult circumstances due to the coronavirus that have totally disrupted our way of life. I want to thank our stakeholders for adapting quickly to the sector and seeing the sector relatively stable despite all the challenges that we have gone through. Yes, we have heard that there has been drop in production and supply to the formal sector. And as Dairy Board, we have actually continued consumer education and sensitization through the mass media. We continue to urge Kenyans to consume dairy products for their high nutritional and health benefits, because that boosts immunity. And in all these interventions, we need to remind and encourage our stakeholders to adhere to the Ministry of Health guidelines that are released from time to time. Ladies and gentlemen, the COVID-19 has really tested our resolve and threatened to derail the development in this sector. Our mandate to regulate, develop, and promote the industry, we will still continue with that mandate. And we will deliver this by ensuring that high quality and safety standards are maintained in order that we have milk and milk products that are safe and meet set quality standards. We are steadfast on this and working closely with you, and thank you, stakeholders, for doing so. The dairy industry over the years has grown tremendously to become a major driver of the economy and a key pillar of His Excellency the President's Big Four agenda, supporting food and nutritional security and also manufacturing. We are particularly happy for the support that we have received from the stakeholders in developing the dairy industry regulations, which are now at a very advanced stage. I can say here that we finished the stakeholder participation as required by law, and all that is remaining now is actual validation. Waziri, on behalf of Kenya Dairy Board, thank you very much for all the support that you have given us to fulfill our mandate. Thank you to you and the ministry for the technical support and the financial support, especially with our lab in Kabete that is nearly finished now. This will ensure the highest quality standards. And I do hope, as one of the farmer representatives here said, the sector will be included in the economic stimulus package announced by His Excellency to help absorb some of the shocks and setbacks of the COVID-19 pandemic. As I conclude, we have seen your transformational agenda in the agricultural sector, and especially in the dairy sector. And we're happy to be associated with your visionary stewardship and look forward to tapping further to benefit the sector. With those few remarks, it gives me great pleasure to invite the Chief Administrative Secretary to give her remarks. Thank you and God bless.
Honorable CS, the MDs present, Chairman present, and all the processors, it's my pleasure to join you here today. I've listened to the challenges that you're going through, and basically that's what I wanted to capture, so that as we go out there, or as we're in the ministry, we'll be able to know how to coin the policies that can help us to move forward. I want to thank ADB because they've taken me around, Waziri, to understand the challenges in the sector and the processors. They've raised some of the issues here about the VAT on equipment. But another interesting one which I saw there and was not mentioned here was the issue of where the processors and the ordinary people from counties that do not have enough milk are meeting at a cooler. I came across that one where people from counties where they don't get milk are there also buying cash from the cooler. Then I want to throw it back to the processors that I think we also need to invest in other counties that are not traditionally milk producing counties. Invest in them to boost their genetics over there, so that you can have milk everywhere. You may just be looking at the traditional producers of milk, while we have other counties, the ASAL regions in this country, where actually if we help them to improve and boost their genetics in that area, you could still collect milk over there. Please make it part of your CSR. We were talking with the Brookside person, and I told him about why we don't have milk in some section where he collects some milk. But now instead of saying, then I think you need to invest, have field days with the counties and the people in that side, so that they can also produce milk where traditionally you never collected milk. Today is not my day. is our minister. But Waziri, as I go around, I always tell them, you are one person who doesn't take homework home. I say my minister takes no homework, he finishes as it comes that day, and amaliza. So I'm sure some of the things they have said, you will just do because that's the kind of a person I've seen you to be since we worked together since the beginning of this year, action-oriented. So those few remarks, let us up and stand because we've been sitting for too long, and welcome our minister. Karibu Waziri.
Thank you very much, Lina, CAS, distinguished stakeholders in the dairy sector, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to this important forum. I don't know whether I should welcome you now. I should be saying goodbye because it's forum is over, isn't it? And to thank you for finding time to be with us today. We are gathered here at a time when our country and the entire world is faced with a pandemic that has disrupted all aspects of our economy, including the dairy industry. The commercial dairy sector is more than 100 years old, having been started by the colonial government at the beginning of the last century. At that time, dairy was a preserve of the white colonial settlers until commercial dairy farming was opened to the locals in the early 1950s. Since then, the sector has undergone a lot of transformation, making it one of the leading agricultural activities in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, Kenya is one of the biggest dairy sectors in Africa, producing 5.2 billion liters per annum. In Kenya, the dairy sector plays a huge role as a source of livelihood to 1.8 million smallholder farmers. The sector offers 750,000 people direct employment, with 500,000 employed indirectly. In addition, the dairy sector contributes 4% to the national gross domestic product, 12% to the agricultural GDP, and 44% to the livestock GDP. Its per capita consumption stands at 110 liters per annum. Though this is one of the biggest in sub-Saharan Africa, it is still below the FAO recommended per capita of 220 liters per annum. To meet that gap, we have put in place outreach initiatives set to showcase the benefits accrued from dairy farming in improving livelihoods and promoting good health and nutrition to its consumers. However, recent trends show that the amount of milk produced in the country and going through the formal sector has continued to decline since the beginning of this year. This is reflected in the volume of formally marketed milk, which has reduced from 63.4 million liters in January to 40.2 million liters in June. Ladies and gentlemen, incidences of milk imported illegally has also found its way into our local market. To ensure that only legally imported dairy products are allowed into the country, my ministry, working with the Kenyan Dairy Board and other government authorities, have instituted strict regulations and increased surveillance along our porous borders and final destination markets. A number of unscrupulous business people have been arrested and arraigned in court as a result. One recent case was of 4 people arrested with milk powder, equivalent to 10,000 liters, in the towns of Londua and Kakuma. The suspects were arrested while selling the milk smuggled into the country from UAE. Others have also been arrested in Isli, Nairobi, and action taken. We want to assure the stakeholders in this critical sector that we will continue to ensure that compliance with the law as regards the illegal importation of milk will be strictly enforced. These interventions have drastically reduced imports to approximately 4.5 million liters of white milk per month. Dairy industry stakeholders, to ensure that the dairy sector remains vibrant and a preferred investment sector, the government, in conjunction with Kenya Dairy Board and other industrial players, have instituted several interventions towards the sector. Some of these interventions include improving the cooling infrastructure by installing up to 350 milk coolers, each with a 300-liter capacity to farmer groups across the country. This will lead to improvement in milk quality as well as reduce post-harvest losses and thus improve profitability along the value chain. Dairy producer is one of the key cogs that moves the dairy sector. Following an outcry by farmers on low producer prices, the President, through my ministry, directed that farm gate prices should not be less than 33 shillings. This would ensure that all farmers achieve a fair return on their dairy farming and thus make the sector more sustainable. Indeed, I'm informed now that the average price is around 38 shillings, almost hitting even 40 because of some of the challenges of production. Favorable prices are an incentive to farmers to produce. And farmers are critical. Actually, if you ask me, the most important stakeholder. Because the other stakeholders, important as they are, of course the consumer is also important because you must sell the milk. Even the others are not saying they are not important, but I'm saying minus the farmer. If there is no farm, is there a sector called dairy? So that is a stakeholder you must continue thinking about, taking care of, making sure that they are supported. And that is what government has been trying to do. And the key support to the farmer really, as far as the other stakeholders are concerned, is ensuring a fair price. A fair price. Fair price simply means compensating him so that he is able to earn a living through keeping dairy cows. He is able to pay his costs and then he is able to earn an income. Of course, the demand for more, better prices will always be there. There is no, people want more and more, but even the other players must also get a fair compensation for the services they provide along the value chain, isn't it? So what we are saying is really a balancing act where there is no player in the sector, especially the weaker player, who is usually the farmer, because we rely on the small scale, smallholder farmers, because they are not as organized and very well skilled as the other players who can take care of themselves. So we need to be mindful of that critical player in the sector. Many sectors have died because we ignore. We look at the short-term gains that are available and we forget the long term. That for the sector to continue growing, the short term, you need to look at the long haul as we invest in this sector. So to improve this on the skills of dairy players to enable them manage better their businesses, the Ministry, Kenya Dairy Board, and other players have stepped up capacity building of the same, particularly in the areas of value addition and adoption of modern technology. Neo KCC is one of the leading milk processors in the country. It is fully owned by the government. The processor many a time acts as a buyer of the last resort for farmers' milk and milk products. To enable the processor play its critical roles, government supported the processor through an injection of Kenya shillings 500 million to stabilize milk prices further injected an additional Kenya shillings 500 million to support modernization of its facilities located in different parts of the country. Indeed, this is already going on, and once completed will provide additional market for our farmers, for our dairy farmers. The President on the 23rd of May announced a 53.7 billion economic stimulus package to help the economy absorb the shocks of COVID-19. I'm confident that the dairy sector, also being one of the subsectors affected by the pandemic, will greatly benefit from this package. Regulatory framework remains key in the development and growth of any sector. Development of investment-friendly policies and regulations remain a key role of the national government. This is aimed at creating a conducive environment for business to thrive. Towards this end, my ministry has continued to review existing policies and regulations with a view of taking appropriate action, be it coming with new policies and regulations, amending the existing ones, or totally doing away with any policy or regulation not appropriate for the sector. One of these regulations is the Draft Dairy Regulations 2020, in line with the constitutional requirement that the regulations go through stakeholder participation. The regulations were exposed to stakeholders in different parts of the country. Feedback, memoranda, comments, and input received from the stakeholders have been collated and inputted into the regulations. A rapid impact assessment is currently underway, after which the regulations, as per requirements, will now be taken to the sectoral working group, after which a national validation workshop will be undertaken. After the validation, the regulations will be forwarded to my office for onwards transmission to the Attorney General for assessment. Once this process will be over, obviously, the regulations will come into effect and then submitted to Parliament for the usual oversight. There is a bit of confusion on regulations. Some people still think they go to Parliament before they become. The law is very clear. Regulations are subsidiary legislation, so they are instruments utilized by the executive arm of government to implement laws that are already there or sort out gaps. So they become effective immediately they are gazetted. Parliament only looks at them when they are already taking effect to see whether to repeal them, because they can repeal, they have the power, or to say they are okay, we can't touch it. So they don't wait for Parliament for them to come into effect. That is the law. So once they are ready and we gazette them, then they will come into effect. The parliamentary process is some kind of an oversight introduced post the effective date. So dairy farming in the country, just like any other agricultural activity, is heavily dependent on rainfall. Thus, when there is enough rainfall, we experience a glut in milk production, and when there are dry spells, we experience milk shortages. This leads to an uneven supply of milk during the year, as well as fluctuating producer prices. To address this challenge, the government has included milk as part of the strategic food reserve. Thus, the excess milk can be converted and stored as milk powder and long-life products for use during the times that we have milk shortages. Yeah, and well, I was outlining some of the interventions government has done, including putting milk into a strategic food reserve to help stabilize the sector, to deal with those challenges of fluctuations. And we are happy that KCC is doing that work. And we are actually asking KCC now, because of the challenge we have now, to release percentage of that milk to the other processors, to sell to the other processors, so that, because food reserve stocks are meant for that purpose. When there is a challenge, then you are able to release them into the market to stabilize the prices, enable production to continue, and also provide the product into the market so that there is no shortage that forces us to go into importation. And therefore, depending on what stocks they have for themselves, I think it's high time that some of it now is released. The government has supported the Kenyan Dairy Board to construct and equip a modern state-of-the-art dairy laboratory at Kabete. Construction of the facility has been completed and equipment installed, and will in the shortest time possible become operational. This will greatly enhance milk testing as well as assessment of quality and safety of milk products, comply to standards and other existing regulations. The net effect of this is improved quality and safety of our dairy products. Ladies and gentlemen, I want at this juncture to assure our dairy farmers that dairy farming remains one of the most rewarding agricultural activity in the country, one of the surest ways to reduce poverty and ensure that the much needed nutrition, particularly in this time of COVID-19. Producer prices for raw milk have generally stabilized and become competitive. As the representative of the farmers himself pointed out, the chairman of the federation, that the prices are good and the sector is quiet. It should also be speaking out, saying we are happy. Isn't it? Don't talk when there is a problem, and then when there is no problem, you keep quiet. It would send a good message if you also said we are happy, isn't it? Though when I went round, when I was visiting the facilities there in Kiganjo and Nyahururu, the farmers expressed their satisfaction and their happiness that the sector is doing well. And the prices are really reasonable. They could do better with better prices, but they are reasonable. So my clarion call to farmers, therefore, is to encourage them to intensify production of milk and ensure that the milk is marketed formally. This will ensure that we build on the gains made so far in the sector and are able to absorb shocks arising from the COVID-19 pandemic. I want to assure them that the government and my ministry in particular will continue supporting them to ensure that they get favorable returns to their investment, and indeed not just the farmers, but also the other stakeholders who have invested in this very important sector. As I conclude, let me say that the sector has been fairly resilient. My appeal is that we continue working together to ensure that we weather this storm that has been brought by the pandemic. Let me also remind us all to continue following the government guidelines on prevention of contracting COVID-19 by taking measures that have been recommended by the government: social distancing, wearing of masks. I was wearing mine, it's just that I am too. I want the media to take a good picture of me. So if I keep wearing it, these days you even confuse people, you don't know who is who. So we really want to thank all of you for this important forum that has achieved its purpose of assessing where we are in terms of the disruptions brought by the COVID-19. Clearly, there has been serious disruptions, and measures need to be taken to ensure that we normalize and go back to optimum production of milk, since the market is still there. As you have pointed out in your presentations here, the market is available. We want to ask, in fact, the biggest, one of the aim here was to actually ask farmers to go back to production. Those who are, when this problem came in, there was a lot of fear. And one of the biggest fear among the farming community was the market. Now that schools have closed, hotels have closed, where will our milk go? And I think that is what contributed, part of what contributed to the reduction in production. Now, processors are here, those who buy milk from you. The retail end is not your business. I mean, the business of retail end is those who buy, the processors. They are saying the market is there. And in fact, we are having a crisis now because most of the processors do not have enough raw material to produce for the consumer. So we are asking you to go back to production, go back to investing in feeding the animals so that you can produce enough milk to satisfy the market, which is in distress right now, which is relying on actually the stocks that have been put there that were mopped up during the dry spell. And I'm told these stocks may not last long. I think this is a message that was intended to come out from this one, that we have a problem, production has gone down, we are not able to satisfy the market. If we continue this way, then we might be forced to import milk. And we don't want to go back there again. We want the local producer to be able to earn a living by selling milk in the local market. So we are asking farmers to go back to invest in production. If you stop feeding your cows because you are afraid that there will be no market, we want to tell you the market is there. The market is there. Of course, the forum has also looked at other challenges in the sector. In fact, we are told some of the other causes of the production. The problem of production is issues of diseases, especially foot and mouth. I'm told may have contributed also to the decline. We want to ask the county governments to take a more proactive role in the vaccination of animals. The national government has invested in production of the vaccines that we have also invested in supporting through other programs, counties that may not be able to have their own resources to buy the vaccines. It is your role now as counties, since this sector is devolved, to actually organize yourselves to do the vaccinations to the levels that are required. We are supposed to vaccinate 80% of our animal stock to deal with some of these transboundary diseases that affect production. And I think we need to also get statistics, and the regulator who is involved in this sector, we are actually asking them, rather than just imploring, we need to find out whether the law also empowers in some way to take action. Because national government is empowered by law also to ensure that diseases don't roam around. The fact that vaccination is devolved doesn't mean that we shouldn't do something to make sure that those who don't take action where they are required, they do so. So we look at the veterinary department to see what other extra measures we need to take to ensure those counties that are not comply actually comply through the force of the law. Even COVID, we are using force of the law to make people comply. isn't it? Because the pandemic is a danger to society and to community. So even animal diseases are a danger to society and to community. They affect our health. Therefore, we must use the law to comply. So we are asking counties that are not vaccinating animals. They have been empowered to do so, they need to do it. Don't divert resources already provided for at the national level where it is shared to you to do other things. Invest resources that are intended for this sector in this sector. If you want extra resources for other things, look for it. But don't divert resources that are already provided in the sharing of the revenue. You divert it from this sector to other sectors. So I am asking the regulator in this sector, I think it is the Department of Veterinary, to take action and give us advice on what we need to do to make sure everybody complies with the vaccination. We cannot allow those diseases to continue spreading, yet we have the capacity, the technical capacity, we have also the resources to be able to contain it so that we can take care of the health of our people and the health of our animals. There is also the issue of extension. Again, this is also a devolved function. I think this forum has raised that issue, and this forum needs also to advise us on innovative ways of supporting extension. Because where we were, the time when we were employing boots, are they called boots? What are they called? Real boots to travel to the farms and talk to every farmer. Those days are long gone. Resources have gone down. We need to look at technology. How do we innovate? How do we use technology to support extension services? And I think perhaps this is what also Deribun and the experts are speaking here can also help think out. A model that is largely private sector driven, coordinated at the national level and the county level, but that does not require physical employment of individuals to more, because there are no resources to do that. I'm sure there could be solutions in that direction. The other critical issue that has been raised that we've been grappling with is the issue of cost of feed, which we must also address. And I'm gratified that there is some thinking already that has gone into trying to see how we can utilize idle land that is within the government and work with the cooperatives to produce animal feed. But even as we look at that, the production, we also look also affordability. Because it's not enough to say, yes, we release farms, produce, but how affordable? Once we produce, we reach the farmer at a cost that they can be able to absorb and therefore invest more in production. So even as you design it and you want to support it, really, and we think it's a good plan, tell us how you address the cost. The ultimate issue of affordability to the farmer. Because again, even the cooperative model is good, but it always brings some constraints at hand, small costs. There are people like plugging in at that level, the value chain. They don't add any value themselves. And that has been a big problem for our cooperative movement. They come in somewhere and hang around and say they are this and the other, and then they are the ones who gain most. But if you tell them, tell us what service are you providing? What service are you providing? So that you should be able to earn this from the value chain. They won't tell you. That's the problem we're having with coffee, that's the problem we're having with tea. People scavenging, riding on the farm. We are not saying that, we are saying everybody who provides a service somewhere has to be compensated. but the compensation must be commensurate with the service you are providing. So those are the challenges we are grappling with. Therefore, when we are developing those models, please let's look at what are we going to do to make sure that the production is there, yes, for the animal feed, but then about the cost, so that ultimately the farmer gets it. And therefore we become competitive. That's why our neighbors have become more competitive than us. The government is also actually looking beyond that proposal. We are also looking at other ways of supporting production of raw materials for animal feed. For instance, we are looking at Galana Kulab, some big project started by government. I visited this last weekend, or close to 4,000 acres. I mean, over 4,000, almost 5,000 acres are already irrigated and are producing maize. Another 5,000 acres on production. Just 600 million to do certain things to expand what is under production. Our proposal is this 5,000 acres should be targeting to produce the value chains that we have a deficit in, like the value chain that produce animal feed, so that we are able to bring down the cost of production for animal feed. Maybe yellow maize, I don't know. Somebody was talking about yellow maize. Instead of importing, maybe you can grow it there. Cotton, for sure. Can you put part of it into cotton production? Soya, we have even experimented with soya there. You can also grow it. So we should dedicate most of that land to producing raw materials for animal feed, so that it can be able to bring down animal feed. Even as we was proposing. Because it's not one, there's no one solution. We can't do them and see how we can do it. That area would be for bigger investors. But the model was working also, of course, for cooperatives, which must be done side by side. Of course, the potential there in Galana is even bigger. So we are just talking about the short term. But the long term, of course, it will open much more land. And we are told over 25,000 acres without even building a dam, just pumping, you can still add another 15,000 acres. With some damming, you can go to over 400,000 acres. So there is land there, government land, no dispute. Water, all we need is the infrastructure that is required, and then of course make sure that the technology is technology that is not expensive, so that the production can be. So basically I'm just saying the ideas on how to deal with that issue of animal feed that government is already looking into. And already one of the pillars in our agricultural transformation is to see how we can attract private investments into production of our food and even raw materials for animal feed to bring costs down through large-scale production and investment in technology and innovation, which that is a key pillar and then we are saying Galana and the some of other government idle land is part of the strategy which we are fine-tuning, and then we should be able to roll it out. I don't think I want to say much more. There has been a very productive morning. Happy to see all the sector players together, linking together, figuring out solutions together. We, of course, people are talking about exports and export, but can we even satisfy the local market? Can we improve on the local market? We are already being displaced from the local market before we even figure out about exports. Since we are the biggest market anyway, that's what we are saying, why can't we sort out the bottlenecks that are constraining ourselves, making us uncompetitive in the local market, the East African market? Then we can think about talking about other. And I think many ideas were given here on what we need to do. Let us now go into the implementation rules, ideas, and demanding results from the people who are given the mandate to implement those ideas. As I said, as I conclude, let us also continue enforcing, even as we wait for the regulation to be concluded, enforcing the law and enforcing the standards. Enforcing the law to substandard imports that are a major problem in distorting the market. When people sneak in products through funny routes from the north there and they find their way in the market, very cheap, poor quality products, and certain consumers consume them. Some may not even be safe because you don't even know where they are processed. Back rooms. So it is our responsibility as a government and Dairy Board as a regulator and the other agencies of the government to ensure that does not happen. And serious action is taken, and we are happy that it is happening. We want to say continue doing it, tighten it even more. And we also ask the general public to be vigilant, because all this your government is trying to protect you, but it is you who should protect yourself first, isn't it? Yes. Government should not be the one to care more about your health and safety than yourself. So don't collude or hide information when you hear people are hawking or selling all sorts of unsafe products for you, because your health matters. And I'm happy I saw in the presentation that the consumer is also, consciousness is also growing. That is very important for the market. Thank you very much. Sure, we will continue interacting. We will continue supporting this very, very important sector that we believe has a huge potential that is yet to be exploited for the benefit of the people, for the livelihoods of the people, and for generating employment for our people. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Bwana Waziri. We have another round of applause for Waziri. So we are now coming to the tail end of this event. And before we get a vote of thanks, in appreciation for Bwana Waziri agreeing to preside over this event, and Madam CAS, we have a small token of appreciation. So I'm going to request the Chair and the MD to come and give the token, starting with the CAS and then the CS. Madam CS? CAS, sorry. And Bwana Musemi will get ready to come and give the vote of thanks. So thank you so much, CS and the CS. Now, Bwana Mushemi, can you please give us a vote of thanks? Bwana Mushemi. Oh, sorry.
Thank you so much. I think now in the afternoon, coming our date of wonder. When I was reading, I think we are glad to come back and see you again. Going to the other day. I can see the PA is also here. I would like to recognize the presence of our minister, the CS, and the presence of the CS. We have the chairmen of the various organizations and the MD. Mine is to sincerely thank the organizers of this forum, that is the Daily Board. But there are only two things or three things I would like to mention, Bwana Wasili, is that I only wish that you are made